Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this video. I want you to know today's video is on the Pinecone star, and it's part of the Stella round 3, and the number is JNQ 00268-L-004. All right. So if you have those units in your pattern, this is probably part of what you're going to want to watch. It is a part of our mixer program, and so we're going to go ahead and get started with it. Because we're sitting at round 3 right now, and round 3 is one of the rounds that has a lot of units in it, okay? And the reason why is because the way it's divided up when you assemble the pieces. So you have left and right units, and you have left and right units. The way it's assembled is you have to pair some of the left units up with some of the right units, and some of the right units are paired with the left units. And that's the way this goes together. So if you look on the wall behind me, I have this division. You can see where it's split right down in here. So this group right here is sewn together. This group is sewn. On this side, we have our long group here and our short group here. Now let's come back to my paper here. And I'm going to show you again. So in Assembly Graphic 1, we've labeled each one of the section parts. So I have an L1L, an S2L, and an S1L that are all paired together. I'm not going to read the rest of them. When you get all of the assembly done, you're going to sew 3 of the components together, and then you have a set of 2 components that go together right here. I'm not going to continue to use the words left and right, right and left as we go through here, these instructions, because it's going to get really confusing. And what you really have to have is your instructions in front of you, and you have to mark things off as you go to make sure you get these units correct. I will tell you, when you're working with these units, if you assemble them improperly, your quilt will not go together. So pay attention to how they're assembled together in your assembly graphics, right? That's my lecture for that. So we're going to put this sheet aside and save that. If you have Quiltster, you can print out your color chart right in Quiltster and put all your fabric swatches onto your chart. This pattern has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different color options for fabrics. So you're going to have an L1 and an L2. And then for the stars, you have the option of 4 different colors for the stars. All right, so you'll have to pair that up. When you get into the instructions, we're going to start on page 1. I'm just going to go over things really quickly because I've done page 1 on all of the previous patterns that you're going to be using. So you're going to read your Ziploc bag. We're going to have 4 bags here. Bag 1 and 2 are they belong to the S pieces. And so we're going to set those aside, and that'll be the second part of our video. Bag 3 and 4 are for the L units, which are these pieces right here. Now, read that really carefully. For bag 3, that's where it tells you which left and right units you're going to pair up. And bag 4 also tells you what left and right units you're going to pair up. And what I've found when I'm working with these L units, that as I open up the foundation sheets, I like to write down, I like to find everything, find out what bag it goes into up there for the units, and then I write the bag number on the papers because it's so easy to get the papers into the wrong bag. So write your bag numbers onto your foundation papers as you cut them out. The cutting instructions for all of the newsprint is the same. You're going to cut everything. The templates are cut out right on the black line. All of the foundation papers are cut out about 1/8 of an inch outside the black line. We have, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 template layout sheets that we have to work with, and 2 single templates that you will put onto your fabric. When you go to the yardage chart, you only have 2 color options there. You have one of your background colors, and I don't really call it a background color, but you can. You have an L1, which is the main color. L1 is the outside, and L2 are your spikes. Those fabrics can be cut from either light or dark fabric, depending on how you design your color previously to your cutting. All right. My L1 fabric for our demo is black, and my L2 fabric for our demo is my white fabric. So go to your color layout, which sits right underneath there, and if you need to, go ahead and write those fabric numbers onto your foundation papers, because there again, as you start assembling, you may find yourself getting a little confused as to what goes where. So we're going to start with the fabric L1. I have my bags setting here, and we're going to just set them to the side. I did all of my pre-cutting for this booklet. There's really no reason why you guys have to watch me cut my strips again. And so I've already pre-cut everything. It's down to the strip size. The other thing I've done is I've stacked all of my fabrics right side up. And so this is going to be left over, so I'm just going to get rid of this right now. It gives me a little bit more room on my table. And this piece right here is for step 2. Is the number 1 graphic. So if you just look at those graphics, these are the papers you have to have on there. And like I said, I'm not going to read all of the letters on them. We're going to open this one up. This is the second graphic, and I have all of my fabrics, or my templates, placed on my fabrics already, and I'm going to cut this excess off. And so now I have a picture here. If you guys look, this is exactly what it looks like in your instructions. One thing I do want to bring to your attention, and I'm going to look at this. In Quiltster, it tells you to cut your fabrics into 8-inch strips. And when you get into your cutting instructions, then it tells you to cut the 8-inch fabric strips into 8 4-inch strips. So I have 4 fabrics underneath these layout sheets, 4 fabrics underneath these. Okay, And we're going to go ahead and cut these apart right now because actually I'm only going to cut the number 1 group apart, and we'll fold this one up because I'm not going to do both units today. So I'm going to place these pieces aside. And I might have to cut it. So let's go ahead and cut through this. So we're going to start right here at the end. I'm going to use my add a quarter ruler because it has that lip on it and it sits on my, up on the paper clips a little bit better. So now we're going to go to cut line 1. Then we're going to cut line 2. Then we're going to go to cut line 3. 4, 5, and I need to turn my page. So we're going to set these, and then we're going to go ahead and move this one in a little bit. And you want to keep that on the straight of the grain. And make sure you cut along that sew side down there. Okay, put the template on here. And now we're going to look and see what bags it tells us that we have to put them in. We want bag L4 and we want bag L3. So I am going to have to cut that other set because half of my pieces for my bags are in there. So we're going to follow the pictures, and it tells me that this piece right here goes into bag number 3. And you're going to match the template letter up with what's written in the instructions. So this one we're going to put in bag 3. Then all of these pieces go in bag 4. So I'm going to look at them and get them sorted by the largest number. Not all of them go in bag 4. Well, yeah, they do. So let's look at what our templates are. I think there's templates here for 2 different groups of paper because I have 2 L2, L5 templates. So we have the 2 sets of papers that are in this bag. So let's start here with my largest number is 7, L7. And then we have an L5, and then we have another L5. We have an L3, and then we have an L2. So let's go ahead and cut that other sheet, and that will give me all of my templates. Okay, so we're going to cut there. And then we're going to go to cut line 1. And then we're going to go to cut line 2. Then we're going to go to cut line 3. 4. And 5. And then this piece right here. that's a L2R, that's an R. This is an R. This is an R. That's an R. This one is an L. This one's an L. And this one's an L. Okay, so we have all of these pieces, and if I look down here at the very bottom of the page, there's a stacking order there that kind of gives me an idea how these go together. So I have to have a 7, and that's going to be an R7. And so I believe that this is my R7 right here. Then I have to have a R5, which that's my R5. I have an R3, needs a paper clip on it. And then I have to have an R2, which that's an L. This one, actually, this one's an R. There we go. So that's going to be for one of my groups of templates. And then I also, in this bag, have to have an L5, which I have, and then a 3. No, that's a 7. So let's find my other little stack here. So this is my L2, L5, and then this is my L2, L3, and this one is my L2, L2. And that goes into my bag 4 as well. And these are my bag 4. So where's my bag 4? It's right here. Now my other bag, the actual instructions for how you stack are on page 3. So we're going to look at these. This is bag 3, and just double check. I should have an L2 R5, and I should have an L2 R3, which is right here, and I should have an L2 R2, which is right here. So this is a set. And then my other group here, I should have an L1, L7, an L1, L5, an L1, L3, and I should have an L1, L2. Now, I'm going to pull the papers out right now so I don't have to sort these again, because I have more pieces that have to go, but I'm going to go ahead and clip these to the papers that they go with. And then we'll fill in when we get the rest of the pieces cut. So we'll slip these into the bag. Okay, so we have those sorted the way it tells us to sort them. And in reality, when I'm reading through that, it didn't really tell me to sort those at that point. It just told me what bag the template pieces went into. I just like to get them sorted before I throw them in the bag. Okay, so now we're going to fabric L2, and this fabric L2 told me to cut and stack 4 4-inch strips. And I've already placed the layout sheets to look just like the picture. And one of the reasons I like to keep the layout sheets identical to the way we have them set in the picture is because sometimes I'll come down and I'll tell you that everything on this side goes in bag 4 and everything on this side. So I don't like to try to mix those up if I don't have to. So this is my L1R and L2L template. So we're just going to cut this. And it tells me that everything in this on this template goes into bag 4. So I'm going to go ahead and just fold this up and put this into bag 4 because we're going to work on bag 3 first. Okay. So we're going to set that bag aside. And then we're going to come in here. Now we're going to cut. Go. This is cut line 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what this is telling me, if I read through my instructions and look at the pictures, that all of these pieces go into bag 3. So we're going to pull out those templates from bag 3 that we have stacked together. And these templates are going to be divided between these 2 stacks. So this is my little template. And that's my L2R. So what I want to do is look through here and find this is an L2R template and this is an L2R template. So there's a 1 and a 4 there. All right, so that's all that goes there. So let's go ahead and stack these. So the last section is 5. Then we have a section 4. We have a section 3. We have a section 2, and then my section 1 is right here. So this is kind of one of those layout sheets that we created it in a different manner. And the reason why is we're trying to force the seam to be pressed a different direction, so we will end up with opposing seams when we put the pieces together, okay? And it just makes it easier to assemble. So what we did is we have section 1 starts here, and then section 2 is here, which is a dark fabric. Then we have section 3 here, which is a dark fabric. Section 4 is a light fabric, and section 5 is a dark fabric. So we're going to put this right here. And I'm going to use this one as a paper piecing demo. I'm going to turn my machine on and get it ready to go. And now let's go ahead and let's get this side stacked and clipped together. So let's look at where the section numbers are on here. On this piece I have a section 1, a section 2, a 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we want to find section 7, which I believe is on the bottom. So that's section 7. Then we should have a section 6. Notice I'm putting all of the sew sides together. Then we should go to a section 5, which should be this piece. And now we're at a section 4, which that's my sew side on that. we're going to go to section 3, which is this piece. I'm going to put a couple paper clips on this one. That goes like that. Then we go to section 2, which is my L1, L2. That's my sew side. And then we go to section 1, which is this piece. And that does not have a sew side, so we're just going to set it. It actually looks like it's going to go like that, so I'm going to just turn it like that. And then we're going to clip these together. And we're going to set these pieces back inside of my bag. And we will finish these up. Later on. So that's put away. So now we're at the stacking units part. We've already stacked everything, and I want to start with bag 4, and I told you we weren't going to do bag 4. I should have looked ahead and read. So we are going to do bag 4. The reason I want to do bag 4 is because that's the way the graphics are set up. So sometimes when we do our graphics, the gal that does graphics will sit down and she'll go through a pattern and do everything, all the right graphics, and then we leave the left graphics. So when we're writing the instructions, we have to follow whatever graphics she actually set up for us, and she did the right graphics in this one. So we're going to take this piece, these go back in here, and we're going to finish the stacking on this one. So I do have to cut these pieces. It's so much fun to do the L units because you think you know what you're doing, and then all of a sudden it says, nope, you got to do it this way. There we go. All right, I have my little stack, and I have my big stack. And so the little stack, I need my L2 templates go into this stack right here. And so I should have an L24, which is right there. And then I should have an L3, which is that one, an L2, and then my L1. So that's my video for paper piecing. And so let's just go ahead and put these together. So L7's on the bottom, and then we're going to slip in L6. And then we're going to add L5. Then we're going to add L4. Then we're going to do L3. I'm going to add another paper clip to this. And then after L3, we have an L2, which needs a paper clip. That is the sew side. And then we need an L1. And if I look at that, it looks as if it goes like that. So I'm just going to turn it upside down. We're going to put these papers over here and clip these together. And now the sorting and the stacking is all done. All we have to do now is just set and paper piece. I have another stack of fabric here, but we're going to put these aside, and these fabrics go with my SR units, which are all these little diamonds, and we're not going to do these until we get this paper piecing done. So we only have to make 4 of these pieces. So we're going to start, and I'm going to make 1 because you guys know how to do your chain piecing, but I'm going to go ahead and glue number 1 on all of my pieces to start with. So this has to flip over like that. I'm going to fold the paper around section 1. So I'm going to do this dotted line, and I'm doing that dotted line, and I'm doing that dotted line. And I'm doing that instead of me tracing, all I'm going to do is do those fold lines. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to draw my fold lines. So there's one of them. There's the other one. And there's one. And since we're doing the fold lines, let's just go ahead and do the last one too. And then I'll have them all. So now if I look at this, I'm going to write, this is my 1. This is section 2. This is 3. This is section 4. And this is section 5. All right. So we're going to take all of our pieces, and we're going to figure out how this fabric, so this was on here like that. So if that's the right side, and I'm pairing this, so what I'm doing is trying to match this shape up with the shape that's sitting in here. And the reason you want to do that is because if you're working with any fabric that's directional, this has been set in position to match the direction that the other fabrics are going to be placed when you sew those on. So this piece is going to set on here just like that. So that's pretty easy. And one thing you can do, remember, is if you're not sure, just go ahead and hold that up to the light like this and match those dashed lines with the paper underneath. And once you know how to do that, then all you have to do is set one of them up, and we're going to put our glue on the back. We're going to put it on section 1, and then we're going to take the next piece of paper, and I'm going to glue it under section 1. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I know how that's setting, so I'm going to flip my fabric over now, and that put my wrong side up. And then I'm going to put my paper right on top. By doing it this way, you figure out how to position that piece on the very first foundation paper, and then you can flip it over, and all you have to do is play copycat and do everything the same with all of the others. So I can just position this in the same place. I must have glue on my finger. I'm going to put glue on there. And remember, that's my repositionable glue. So when I remove my paper, I'm not going to have any paper sticking to the back of the fabric, which is really nice because we're working with a light fabric. Okay, so we're done with this. And we're actually done with that template, but remember, we don't want to get rid of templates until we know our pieces are complete. So we're going to find line 1, and we're going to fold back, and we're going to find my add a quarter ruler, and we're going to trim and set that aside. Line 1, trim it. So now we have section 2, and remember, I'm only going to do finish one piece, and so I'm going to take this, and I can see exactly how that has to fit by just laying that onto the paper. So I'm going to grab a piece of fabric off the bottom, and we're going to slip underneath there, and we're going to glue it on. And then I'm going to set this template piece up there. And we need our glue stick here. We have dark on the bottom, so we don't have to worry about any shadowing. And notice that my angle of the fabric is the same angle as my template. We're going to go to the machine, set my stitch length at 1.9, and we're going to get the camera focused on my machine. Do I need to turn it? How about that? Right there. There we got a good shot. So we're going to open this up. I have to hold my machine. And we're going to sew on line 1. Now I want you to notice that I sewed up past that dashed line right there, okay? Now we're going to take this, and I'm going to finger press. It's a little piece. Instead of going to the iron, I'm going to go ahead and do my finger pressing on this one. So now we're going to flip it over, and I'm going to go to line 2. And I need to bring my fabric with it. And then we're going to lift, and we're going to tear the stitches away from the paper. Add a quarter. So that's my sew side right there. So I pick this up, and you can tell this section right here matches this. So all I have to do is lay this down and make sure I have fabric on the bottom edge here, which I have plenty, and along the side. And I'm going to move it down a little bit further because I have more waist down here than I have on this side. So let's go ahead and glue. Now we take that to the machine. And I'm going to sew on line 2 now. And I'm going to sew down past the dashed line. Now we're going to finger press that unit, or that piece of fabric there. And I'm going to flip it over. We're going to place the fold template on line 3. Bring the fabric with it, hold on to the paper, and then tear. That tore the stitches away from the paper. Now the fabric lays down. We're going to place the add a quarter and trim. So this is my section 4. I'm going to pull the fabric off the bottom of my stack, and then I'm going to look at my template and make sure. So I have the wide part and then the points up here. So I have my wide part, the point. All I have to do is lift this on here and set that on like that. And then we'll set that out of the way. I have, with this piece, I'm going to slip this up a little bit. So I have fabric at the bottom. I have fabric at the top. If I fold it back, I can see. So I'm in good shape. But I do have light fabric on the bottom. So I want to see a sliver of the light right along that sew side. And we're going to put the glue on this, lift the fabric, put a little bit of glue, rub that together. We're going to sew on line 3. Open the fabric, finger press it today. Now we're going to place the fold template on line 4. Bring the fabric with it, tear, trim, set the sew side up here. There's my sew side, and all I have to do is lift this and match that trimmed edge to my sew side. Glue the edges. My dark is on the bottom, so I don't have to worry about any shadowing. Okay, I want to show you guys a little trick that sometimes I use when I'm working with really large templates. So I'm going to fold this back. I've already sewn this edge. And sometimes when we put a really long template underneath our foundation paper, it's hard to get that seam line to lay really straight. So after you get through sewing it, you can actually come back and put this ruler on it. And if you need to, you can come in and clean up that edge just a little bit and straighten that out. So we are done with that piece. And I'm going to turn my iron on. Okay, we're going to press this piece of fabric, or I should say foundation sheet. So we have a nice press there. I'm just going to check, make sure I didn't press any folds, and it's looking good. So now I'm going to show you guys how to trim. So I'm going to just take my Creative Grids ruler here, And I'm going to trim along that edge. Trim there. We're going to trim that smart corner. Trim that edge. This one. This is what my fabric piece looks like right here. So I'm going to show you where that pairs up on this one. So I just created that piece right there. You guys are now going to complete all of your paper piecing, and when that's done, we will start with the fabric S1, S4. Pause. This section of the paper piecing is for the diamond star pieces that fit on the bottom. The units are called S1L through S1. There's S1L, S2L, S1R, and S2R. I'm sorry. And those are the units for the foundation papers. So I'm just going to show you what they look. Basically, the R stands for the right side. And the L stands for the left side. These pieces are actually cut off of the strips at the same time. So we're going to set up both foundation papers. And I've already got my fabric chart. I have 4 colors, and those fabrics are S1, S2, S3, and S4. Okay. So fabric S1, the 4 fabrics, I should say, S1 through S4, you should have 2 strips of each fabric. And if you look down below the cutting instructions, it says to cut and stack 2 strips of 2 1/4 inch by 42 inch. Okay? And then you're going to stack them in the stacking order, which is S4 is on the bottom. And then we have another S4 on the bottom. And I'm going to line up my edges here. Now we have an S3. So your fabrics are being stacked in numerical order from 4 back to 1 on the top. So this is 3. And I'm going to remove these fabric markers. This is fabric S2. This one is fabric S2. This one is fabric S1. And this one is fabric S1. If you're wondering why it's called S1 and S2, S3, S4, the S actually it references the star fabrics, okay? And we do that in all of our patterns. So whenever we have an S fabric, it normally refers to it being part of a Piece Diamond Star series. All right, now we're going to go down to step 3. This is step 3. This is my stacking order. This is also the sewing order. So once I cut, I don't have to restack anything for this unit. So this is an SL template, and we have 2 of them. I only really need 1. So we're going to place that one along this edge. And then we're going to take the SR template and straighten my fabrics a little bit better. We're going to do 1 SR template here. That's going to go there. Now I'm going to grab the ruler, and we're just going to cut right at the end of that. And we have plenty of fabric, so don't worry about accuracy. Now we're going to cut this angle. And we're going to cut that angle. These are my SR fabrics, so they're going to go over here. And these are the SL fabrics, which go to here. We can put these templates aside. And I'm going to move these as well. So right now, with my templates, I'm set up to do the paper piecing, and I don't have to rearrange the fabrics at all. So if you go to the next step, it says preparing the foundation papers. All of that excess fabric I cut off, you need to cut some little fabric swatches off of it. And you're going to paste those fabric swatches onto your foundation paper. So if you look here under illustration 1, what it's telling you to do is for foundation sheet S1R, which is this one's S1R, and if I read it, it says foundation sheet S1R, I should have fabric S1, and it's going to be put right here. Then I'm going to place fabric S3 on the second line. So see how I have these little swatches there? That tells me what fabrics go onto that piece. Then you're going to take the sheet underneath it, and it's going to tell you the same thing. So this is fabric S1, and this one is fabric S3. On this foundation sheet, this is supposed to be fabric S2, and this one is S4. And on this one, it's S2, and S4. So I have all of my fabric swatches. And now I'm going to start my sewing, which I've stacked all of the fabrics in the order that they're actually going to be used. So just to go over that, I'm going to show you that fabric number 1 right here is that piece. Then I'm going to pick up the next foundation sheet, and that one uses number 1. And then I pick up the next foundation sheet. This one uses fabric S2. And then if I look underneath that, there's another one of fabric S2. All right. So I'm going to glue this little piece back on here. I'm going to set my L group aside for now. But actually, I'm going to look at the paper piecing instructions first. And it tells me that we're going to start with the right side unit, which is this piece. Okay, so all of my paper piecing instructions are going to reference the right side units. You're going to need a long add a quarter ruler, and you're going to need a long fold template for this process. So we're going to remove the template. And then I'm going to take the very first piece, which is fabric S1, and I'm going to flip it over to where wrong sides are up. And then we're going to take this, and I am going to use my repositionable glue. And I'm going to put glue on the back of section 1, and then I'm going to position that paper. So here's my strip, and here's all of my section 1 pieces, right? Make sure that you have fabric past that dashed line. So now we're going to grab the next piece, and I'm going to just lay it on top like that. Flip this piece over. Add my glue. And glue it to the back side of the fabric. And take the next piece in our stack. Glue goes under section 1. And I'm going to show you guys a little tip for those of you that are new to this process. It does tell you to trace that dashed line. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. I folded that, and I'm going to trace that. And then you're going to be able to see why tracing those lines does help you. So basically now when I put my glue on, I can see that I don't want to get the glue under this section. I only want it under this section. Okay, so now this is so fun and easy. So now we're going to pick up the paper that's on the top. I'm going to fold back, place this along line 1, and it tells you line 1. We're going to fold back the foundation paper, and we're going to trim. And you may want to crease that if you have some fingernails. And I'm going to stack that up there. Then we're going to grab the next piece, line 1, fold, trim. Line 1, fold it, and trim. Okay, we're done with those. Now, if I pick up the very top piece and I look, this is section fabric number 3 right here, and that goes underneath that section. So all I have to do, now I leave the fabric right side up because I'm actually pairing the right side of this fabric to this one. And all we have to do is position it right along the edge of the fabric, and then we're going to do the next one. And if you need to, just double check to make sure you didn't get anything out of order. So we have our next fabric. Okay, before I start sewing, I'm going to glue these raw edges. I'm going to reach over and touch my iron to make sure it stays hot for me. Okay, we're going to pick up the first piece. We're going to open the paper and we are going to sew on line 1. Okay, now I'm gonna finger press these before I go to my iron, because when I finger press I can make sure that I get those seams opened up. And I press those. You want to press those in the direction that seam is pressed, sewn. So you're pressing towards the seam allowance. And the sewing is complete. So we're going to flip these pieces over and we're going to trim them off. So we're going to find my ruler here. And the first thing I want to do is trim along this top edge. Now I'm going to do the bottom edge. If they don't line up perfectly for you from being distorted from ironing or sewing, just pull on the fabric just a little bit and get that to line up. All right, so now I'm going to trim this edge. I'm going to flip it over. And we're going to trim that edge. The next thing I'm going to have you do before we cut them apart is you're going to just come in here with your rotary cutter, or if you don't have if you're not confident with your rotary cutter, you can actually take that and snip that little piece with your scissors. And let's see, I cut that one, so we're going to cut this one, cut this one. So I have all of my smart corners snipped now. Now I can just start going through these. I'm going to pull this fabric off. I place that right on that line. And we're going to trim that off. That's my first set of little diamond pieces. So we're going to put a paper clip on those. And we're going to take a break and complete the rest of them. All right, I'm going to switch the colors in my video because I have all of these done. and I'm going to show you how to assemble. So what we're going to do is these pieces are going to go together, and these pieces are going to go together. You're going to find the graphics for this on page 6. And I am working with the right side pieces here. And then this is actually a right side piece. This is L2R. So I have L1R, I have L2R. Then on this one I have an S2R and an S1R. And those are paired together. And then on this side I have my S2L and my S1L paired together. And this information is on page 6 at the bottom of the first column and it shows you the front side view of that. When you remove your foundation papers, make sure that you keep the paper with the unit on it clipped to that until you are ready to assemble the whole quilt. Don't pull these papers off. I'm going to have to pull them off when I sew, but when I get done sewing, I'm going to put them back on and keep them onto my pieces. Okay, so we're going to start right here, and I'm going to show you how to assemble the star piece right here. So there's smart corners. You're going to take this and match up the smart corners, and then I want you to take a pin and you're going to come in 1/4 inch on the top, on the back side of that top piece, and then you're going to come in 1/4 inch on the back side of the bottom piece and just place that pin in that position. Okay, now I'm going to take this to the machine. I'm going to put a little bit of glue. I think I need to glue this. So we're going to glue this smart corner, and then we're going to glue this one. And get those straightened up better. There we go. Now I can actually come in here and I can follow and feel where that intersection is, because this is where an X intersection, and what you have to do is hit that needle right there where the bottom X seam and the top X seam. This is the bottom X seam goes this way, this one goes that way, and you have to hit your needle from your machine right at that point. Okay, so we're going to sew that piece together. And you want to increase your stitch length to about a 2 when you're doing these. And right before I get to that intersection, I pull that pin out. Now we're going to look at this, and we're going to open it up, and I'm going to go, good match. So I'm going to take this to my iron, and I'm going to press. And in my instructions, it tells me to press towards my S1R piece. I gotta lay this around. This is section 1 here. Oh. Because I'm doing this piece right here, so it's pressed up this direction. So we're going to press in that direction. Then I'm going to lay this back down, and I'm going to put my pieces back on. So this is my unit S2, and I'm going to put a pin in there. And this is my S1. Okay. Now then, we're going to take this piece, we're going to flip that over. And that piece tells me to press this one up as well. So we're going to go hit that with an iron. And now at this point, I can actually just leave that paper on it because I'll know which one is which, and I don't need to leave these pieces on. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Just so I don't get that confused, I know that goes like that. There we go. I'm going to find where that intersection is, and I'm going to place a pin right at that intersection. Now we're going to sew. And then this one tells me to press it to the up position, and it matches really nice. So let's press it. And now we're going to add this piece. It tells me to press that one to the up position. Okay. And that's as far as you're going to take those pieces. You do not sew anything together. You're going to put the pieces back into their bags. And we're done with our block. When you guys are all done with this, all the sewing, and you get ready to, you have to decide now where you're going as far as whether you're going to put the border onto it or whether you're going to go to a round 4 group of stars. And remember that information is on the last page, and it's on page 7, and it has pictures of how those blocks will actually lay out when you get to the point of assembling it with the rest of your quilt. You can go ahead and remove the foundation papers and put everything back into their bags until you get the rest of the piecing done for your quilt. So that, I believe, is the end of it. Look at the back page. It shows you where all of these components go. And so we're done now.